Welcome to the Recruitment Business Accelerator podcast. Creating a successful recruitment business is not about you being the best hands-on biller or driving most of the activity for your team. It's about you becoming the best strategist, marketer, and leader so that you can create a powerful business that grows quickly and does not depend on you. For the last 10 years, Nikki Coffin and Katie Green have been advising recruitment business owners just like you to do exactly that. If you want to grow your business by 20% to 250% in 6 months or less, half your hours, and build a powerful recruitment business that doesn't depend on you, keep listening. If you want it faster, visit centeredexcellence.co.uk/apply. Here's Nikki and Katie.
So hi everybody, welcome to the Recruitment Business Accelerators podcast number 10. And Katie and I are really excited to share something which is very topical at this time of the year, which is the 4 hacks that you can implement to really know 100% confidently you're going to smash your goals for 2020. So if you're watching it on the Facebook live stream, please type hi, let us know you're here. And any questions that you've got as we're talking, just put that into the comments below the live stream. Also, if you're listening to this, maybe in a car or at the gym or as you're walking the dog, this is a recording of our Facebook live stream. If you want to listen to these live, then head over to our Facebook group, the Recruitment Business Accelerator, and you can be there to ask questions as we go live. So we've also got this on our YouTube channel and iTunes channel if you want to download these podcasts, listen to or share with your team. So here's a really interesting stat, and at the moment we're recording this is beginning of December 2019, so it's a classic time where recruiters take a metaphorical breath and think, okay, well, what do I want to happen next year? And this stat really doesn't surprise me at all, but a staggering 92% of people who set their goals this time last year don't achieve them. And this figure really doesn't surprise me. We're going to sort of talk about why that is in a minute. But I know I have definitely been part of that 92% in the past. In fact, many times in the past, where I've gone, right, yes, I want to achieve this figure, but there's not been any real thought about why I want to achieve it or like how I'm going to achieve it. It's just literally, oh, that'd be something quite nice to do. And there's not really a concrete plan to do it. I mean, Katie, have you found that?
Yeah, definitely. And like you, I know that I've been in that 92% previously. Definitely. Yeah.
So the other thing about this is if you have been a part of that 92%, and like most recruitment business owners, you'll be very focused, be very driven, you will be quite competitive. By not meeting these goals, it can leave you feeling actually quite discouraged and certainly quite frustrated. And the thing about this, if you actually want to break the cycle, get into like that 8% of what people are doing from a goal setting perspective, like the really, really successful ones, there's certain things that you can put in place and do consistently and exceptionally well that will guarantee that you achieve those targets. But before we go into this, I just want to talk about the psychology of what's going on in our minds, because what you'll find is most entrepreneurs are so sort of driven, they're really ambitious, they're always wanting to get better at what they do. But the problem with that is they're always chasing, if you like, perfection. So they never stop to like enjoy and actually celebrate what they've achieved. They're always thinking, right, well, I could have done better on that, or we didn't hit that target. So that, like, one of our clients, Tom, he'd set a target of £1 million GP. He hit 900,000, actually just over 900,000. I think it was 923,000, which was like about 400,000 more than he'd done the year before. But he was still disappointed because he hadn't hit the million. And it's like, Tom, seriously, I know you didn't quite get there, but you were like just 70 grand off. But look at, the 423,000 pounds difference that you have made. And it's just human nature that we're always like chasing after this thing in the future. And it's a bit like trying to chase the horizon. And Dan Sullivan, who is a really great guy, who's the entrepreneur who runs and set up Strategic Coach, he talks about this thing that entrepreneurs as called the gap. So you're always focusing on the gap rather than actually what it is you're achieving. And he said the problem with the horizon, it's a bit like the pot of gold at the end of the rainbows, you can never get there. It doesn't exist. So as soon as you get towards the horizon, it just keeps moving further and further away. So it's really important that you do stop and you look at what has been working, what you've done well, celebrate before you then reset again. And like there's another guy we work with, a chap called Marcus, who did achieve his £1 million GP, but he's like, as soon as he'd done it, it's like, oh well, we could have done so much better. If we'd got into that client, or I hadn't lost that consultant, or that person hadn't gone off sick, we could have done so much better. So he literally just cancelled out the amazingness that we've done. And if you're constantly in a state of feeling like you're not progressing, or frustrating, or you're annoyed with yourself for not achieving, that is not a healthy place to be from an emotional mindset way. So so what we're talking about is very very important from a mental health perspective, as well as actually there's certain things that you can put in place to make sure that you push yourself with goals, but you're realistic with them, but more about actually setting the plan to that. So Katie, Katie came back from working with one of our key clients this week, and this is one of the reasons why we wanted to talk about this topic, because they've seen significant growth, and you were doing business planning with them. So
correct.
Yeah.
I mean, and this is, again, like you said, I can speak from experience here, because one of the things that would happen for me every year, well, going back a few years, would be that and anyone who's in contingent recruitment is going to totally resonate with this, is that every year you feel like, oh my God, I literally am starting from zero. And where is the revenue coming from? And what people often do is, and I think this is like a missed opportunity or misconception in the recruitment world, is that we believe that we can't do that much planning and forecasting around where our revenue is coming from in the future, because we believe our success is largely driven by the needs of our clients. So we feel like it's quite a reactive industry to work in. But actually, in reality, we do have the ability to influence the amount of work that we can gain from our clients. So in fact, when we realize that, and we know that there are steps that we can take to do that, it totally transforms how we feel about a year ahead. Because what generally happens for us, and hands up, I was definitely there, and I'm sure you would agree, Nikki, is that often what we used to do was, it was a bit like this. You kind of go, what should we do next year? Oh, I think that figure sounds great, or that figure sounds inspiring. Maybe that's what we need to aim for next year. But the problem is,
we always used to say, well, let's look at like a 40% growth, let's pick that figure. There was no real
25% uplift. That's what we're going to do.
Yeah, exactly.
We're going to do 25%, and and that's it. And what people do is they start the year saying, okay, so we're going to do that figure, and we're just going to work really hard to get that figure, right? That's what we're going to do. We're going to work really hard, and we're going to achieve it. And the problem with that is that without any detailed kind of plan towards it, well, first of all, why that figure? Like you're saying, well, why have we chosen that figure? What does that actually mean to us? What's the profit level that it's generating? And actually, why is that important to us? And then secondly, how the blimmin' heck are we going to get there? Because just by setting a goal doesn't mean that you have the roadmap or the detail to actually achieve it. So what happens is you're working very blindly, and it means that very easily you could take the wrong path, and either you reach a dead end or you just don't get to, the destination that you wanted. So it's a bit like driving a car without any GPS and saying, hey, do you know what? Today I'm going to drive up to see Nikki in Scotland, but I've got no idea how I'm going to get there. I'm just going to put my foot on the gas and off I go. Well, it could take me days to get to that destination, potentially months. And this is the similar thing that happens for people in recruitment, because we believe that we don't have that level or the depth of planning, if you like, or influence over our goals. But actually, here's the thing: we do. So what we need are some specific steps to get us to do that. And it's actually really quite simple how you can do that. But like you were saying, going back to what happened last week was when I went and I was business planning with my client. Now, this is a client, to give you an example, this is a client that has achieved this year from where they did last year, they did 1.1 million. They have achieved 2.6 million this year. Now, that was achieved with a lot of hard work, and there definitely was a element of planning in it, but not to the degree that actually is required. And this year, you know, we've set to double that again, and some. So, you know, again, there's got to be a plan behind that. So we walked through last week just some of those basic steps that we could apply to that strategy for them this year, and this will make a big difference. So this is what really I think is topical for us to share with people today. So
the first thing that you did with them, which again goes against what people most of the day, because they're so busy focusing on the future, they never stop to look at what's worked, what they have done well. So what was the first step that you did with them?
So the first step is one of the things that you know we do with our clients, I know, every year, and you and I do it, which is that taking the time to review. So it's actually about saying, right, let's just reflect on the last 12 months and let's look at where we have been successful. So where has our success come from, if you like? You know, what is it that we've done? What's worked really well for us? Perhaps what hasn't worked as well? And therefore, what do we want to keep doing? Because we know it's working for us. What do we want to maybe stop doing because it's not working so well for us? And then what do we need to add in? So what's new from that? But part of that is quite a detailed reflection really on the success of the year and where specifically that success has come from.
So for example, you'd look at key buying clients, you'd look at the type of candidates that you placed, you'd look at the margin that you got, you'd look at your figures in terms of ratios, conversions, percentage conversions.
Totally. So one of
anything else that would be really important to look at from that review perspective?
Well, specific clients and specific candidates, where the role types have been placed. And also, I would look at some of the missed opportunities. If a number of roles have been taken on, but they haven't been filled, i.e. your conversions with a particular client or niche is not where you want it to be, then I would look for that, because what you want to look for is evaluating the potential in each niche that you work in and actually where the gaps are. And where the gaps are for opportunity. So there'll be a lot in your existing clients that will be there, plus there'll be opportunities in clients that you might work with, but you might work with them at the moment in one particular role type, but actually there could be opportunities in other role types. So you're right, the first place is let's do some analysis. So let's look at the last 12 months of our buying clients, and let's look specifically what those types of roles have been. So what are the role type, where were they, who were they with, and what's the 80% of the revenue that we've generated this year, and where's that specifically come from?
And normally it'll be 20% or less of your buying clients, the type of candidates you're placing. That's what we're looking for. It's the 20%, because that's where you want to be focusing your efforts on doing more of.
Right, because the low-hanging fruit is actually where the opportunities are. And, you know, there's a really interesting stat that a lot of people are aware of, which is that actually most of your forecast revenue is actually right under your nose. So it's within your grasp. It's probably, and it's highly likely, that anything between 50 to 80% of your revenue for next year is actually already sitting within your current client base right now. So the reason people aren't aware of it, or you know, if you're listening, you might not be aware of it, is because the old way of doing recruitment doesn't lend itself to maximizing what we've already got. It actually teaches us to be hunters, to be foraging for new clients all the time and fresh opportunities outside of what we're already doing, when actually a large source of your future revenue will already be in your existing clients. And I tell you for why this is, because if you study the buying trends of your existing customers, you start to understand the full potential of what's actually available within your client base and within your candidate base as well, because 65% of a company's business will come from existing customers, pretty much, if not higher. And the probability of selling to an existing customer is 60 to 70% higher than the probability of selling to a new prospect, which is actually 5 to 20%.
Yeah.
So when you start to understand that, you realize that actually there is a lot of opportunity that is pretty much guaranteed in your existing client base, irrelevant of whether you work retained or contingent.
So first step is to review. Second step then is to actually get really clear on what target you want to achieve and why you want it. So, say you want like £1 million GP or £1 million net profit, like for what purpose?
Right.
What will that give you or get for you that you don't have? Yeah. And you want to get really clear on like how's that going to change my world? Why do I want it, basically? Rather than just, if you don't want or need $1 million, then it's likely that you're not going to get that. You need money. It's interesting, actually. There's like, you will always have enough money to do whatever you want, but if you want to create more money, you need to understand why you want to create more money. So that's why it's important to do that. And then with this figure, you want to then break it back down. We call this working back the goal, where you're using your stats to be looking at like so what's the activity, what's the number of clients, what's the number of placements, what's the number of interviews, CV sent, temps out, what do we need to be doing yearly to do that? And then we want to break that down monthly, weekly, so we know, right, actually these are the stats that we need to do, and is it realistic? Have we got enough heads in the business, enough people in the business to generate this level of activity? And that's going to flag up another area, another step.
Yeah, exactly. So you're absolutely right. So off the back of analysis, you want to work out the figure backwards. So break that down into your smaller manageable chunks, or I call them milestones. And then that might be quarter by quarter, by the way. And then off the back of that, you are going to create a client development or a client strategy. So off the back of knowing where your revenue is coming from each quarter. Now, actually, let me just, there is a part of this process that you also need to do, which involves your clients. So when you start to project and you want to future plan where your revenue is coming from, there's a really big opportunity, an obvious place to start, which is to actually go on client visits and talk to your clients. So your process would involve business planning with your clients. So you would do reviews. You'll want to forward plan with your clients for what is happening in 2020 for them. So things that you want to find out about, things like, well, what are their business objectives? What is their goal specifically next year? And what are their plans? Because once you know their commercial objectives and you know what that client wants to achieve, you're going to do the same process with them pretty much, which is then you're going to say, right, if that's what you want to achieve as a business, then how does their people plan map onto their business objectives? Because if a client wants to develop in a particular area, then obviously they've got to have the people to develop in that area or to achieve what they want to achieve. So you can link their business objectives back to their people plan, which is obviously an area that you can then support them in planning towards. So that can mean that you can start flagging up the types of profiles of the individuals that they need before they need them. Because if you can work out how long it takes a client to place certain, well, if it's perm, how long it takes a client to place certain people, what's their average time to fill, you can start helping them to pre-plan what next year looks like. And exactly the same really with contract or interim, which is, what kind of turnover of those individuals you need, what projects have you got coming up, and actually how many heads do you need? Because once you can start helping them with that, then one, you can show value in how you're supporting them next year, but also you can start planning ahead with them about where certain needs are and how you're going to fulfill them, and then you can get them exclusively or lock your client in.
And the thing about this is most recruiters are reactive. They wait, for their existing clients to phone them. And so, and it's it's a slight change, and we're talking about doing the meetings now, certainly in January, to then know, right, well, this is the business opportunity that is there within the existing client base. And we also talk about so on this client development strategy, like business that you can almost bank. So Katie, can you just explain what we mean by that?
Yeah, okay. So when you're looking at, let's say, for example, you when you're doing the process, when you're doing the business analysis, you will actually see that there will be patterns with that client, and you will also pretty much know. So if you look at your conversions with a client and you say, okay, well, look, when I look at my top 20 clients and I pick my top client, I can see that I've got a conversion with that client. Now, it might be 1 in 3, might be 1 in 4, it might be 1 in 1, who knows? But if you know what that conversion is and you pre-plan with your client and you know the volume of roles that they're going to take on next year, then you can actually calculate how much revenue you will be able to, as I say, bank from that client next year. Because if I know that my client's telling me I'm pretty much definitely, for the last 2 years, I've had this level of turnover or attrition in my business in that particular team, and I know that I'm going to have that same attrition, if not more, because I know what my plans are for next year, then by calculating your conversions with that client, you can give yourself some pretty accurate projections for what you could bank with that client. So that's where we can then start forecasting that revenue. And once we've got that revenue banked, we can say, let's take, for example, that figure you said, Nikki. So let's say we want to do 1 million next year. And then we've looked at all of our top 20 clients and we can see that we could bank 600 grand of business with those clients based on those projections. Then we know where we need to be looking, or we can start then saying, right, where do we need to go to fill that other 400k? Where is that coming from?
This is about like a specific client development strategy. So like this would be our step 3. You're not going like this. You're actually looking at your client strategy, but starting with your existing clients and starting with those that that you can bank. That there's obviously stuff that you're going to have to do with those clients moving forward, but this is from the planning perspective.
The how then comes later on, but you can easily then brainstorm the how, and there are ways in which you do that, ways in which you can improve that figure, and ways in which you can get more revenue from conversions from specific strategic objectives that you can then overlay for the year ahead. So once you've done that and you've got the client development strategy, and any areas that you've got, like let's say you've got that gap of 400k, then you'd also be looking at, well, within those particular clients, are there areas of opportunity that we're not already maybe taking advantage of, or we're not getting the level of penetration or the level of influence that we can have over that client. So let's say, for example, you support a client in a particular niche area, but you know that you could fill other role types with that client in another area. Then you could start to then also plan ahead for, well, how many of those new types of roles could we be filling next year? And again, you could use similar calculations for you to do that, knowing, what your client is telling you is coming up next year.
So for example, on that, you might have a media client that you're placing salespeople into, and actually you're doing very well at that, but you realise there is an opportunity for their technical, in their technical niche or their technical team, same clients, but there's an opportunity there you could be placing into that area of the business as well.
Totally. And another actually quite obvious, but another quite easy opportunity is, depending on whether you're perm or whether you're interim, I'm going to call interim like freelance, contract, etc. Is if you do one but you don't do the other, there is a pretty obvious requirement within your client to already start offering the other. And I say that because, as you know, a lot of the business, well, the contract business, the interim business that I did was built off the back of perm. That's how we did it. So there is a really obvious opportunity there for people that's worth exploring with your clients. And some of your clients might say, let's say, for example, you're more perm focused and you think, well, my clients don't take interim. I can tell you now that we grew interim teams off the back of areas where clients said for a period of about 6 to 9 months, we don't do interim, we've never had interim, to suddenly having 300 grand's worth of interim revenue off those clients. So, and that's because we created that need, because if you've got perm, you would take interim. So that there is a big opportunity there too.
So those are the first three, and then the fourth part of this plan. So
once you've got those activities and you've broken that down into your targets and your key success factors that you need to achieve to hit the goal, as you mentioned, you then need to map your people plan around that goal and those targets. Because what might happen is you might suddenly realize, actually, for us to do that, we might need more people, for example, in resourcing, or we might need more people in delivery, or maybe we need to start thinking about business development, because actually that's going to be a bigger proportion of what we're doing next year. So you want to get clear on who do you need in what positions and where specifically within those functions. So around that will be your hiring strategy, but also a key part that, because I organically grew all my managers and key people, is actually succession planning. So career mapping. So if we've got people in our business and they're at the particular levels within our business, what needs to happen for us to develop them and upskill them so that they could take on more responsibility in other areas? Or we could organically, have a succession plan to grow some of our managers within our team that we already have. So your talent spotting as well for what you need next year, as well as a hiring strategy. But again, sometimes some of those people are actually already in your business and you don't already know it,
Yeah, exactly. And this is one of the things, if, for example, you've seen an opportunity in your existing client base to set up a new department, it might mean just taking one of your other consultants, your top achieving consultants who actually is really gagging for a new challenge, or, actually they've sort of hit the ceiling of their, it's almost like a boredom factor. Like they've stopped learning and progressing in their current role. Actually then given this new opportunity, this new niche, and you've got somebody who knows how you work inside out, it's a really smart way then to just to open that client, but also to make sure that you're meeting the needs of a top performer, which is always to be learning and progressing and achieving. So it's almost like they've got a new job, but within your business.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, we know that when we hire people and we hire good people and they've got that potential, even if they haven't got the skill set now, but they've got the values, we know they are definitely the people that you want to keep and you want to spend time nurturing and developing. And again, I think sometimes that can be slightly overlooked, that people assume that people just bill more and that's the route that they take. But actually we've got to be developing our people and supporting the individuals and nurturing them to grow.
Absolutely. So the key with this is that you're planning based on data, on information, on criteria, on statistics, on what you know, but really looking at sort of digging into your existing client base first before you even start looking at needing to do new business. Like we had one client, Jason, do you remember when you did this analysis on him, and I think he wanted an extra 400k net profit, and Katie did the analysis for him, mainly because very big picture strategic thinker and couldn't cope with detail. And Katie's like, well, you just need to add an extra, was it 20p or 30p per hour on each temp, and
on each temp, and suddenly you've got another £1 million. I mean, it doesn't cease to amaze me. It's so worthwhile doing this process.
Yes.
and I know, because I was one of these people, who didn't like spreadsheets, who really is not or was not into data. But the value that you will get from doing this, even if you just start with your existing clients and you do your top 20, you will get some incredible insights. I mean, the amount of times when we do the business X-ray, when we do our process with our clients, and clients tell us before they come, I absolutely know who my top clients are. I know where my business is coming from, and then get so many aha moments saying, whoa, I just didn't even realize that was going on in my business. It literally is, your kind of your eyes and ears on where to go each year. And it's there. It's sitting in your business right now for you to look at.
Yes.
So,
and it might, the thing about it is, when you do it from the get-go, it might take you a little longer to pull that information together. But I can tell you, it might take you 2 days to do that analysis, to pull it, and to then set together your plan. I promise you that will be the best 2 days the most valuable 2 days you could ever spend. And now's the time to be doing it. And if your year ends, so say your year ends, a different time of the year, it doesn't end in end of December, it might be, say, the end of March. You want to be making sure you're doing this process probably about 8 weeks before you're, in terms of the plan for the next year, because you need to be actioning off these meetings and, getting people to be pointing in the, focusing on the right activities, before the end of year closes. To
stress the importance of that having those types of meetings, having those conversations with clients, we were talking about, our client that I went to see last week, that was the difference. One of the difference they said made this year in achieving what they achieved was that, Katie, when you said to us, go out and talk to our clients and start forward planning with them and having conversations about where their needs were coming from, which we hadn't been doing, we suddenly got 14 projects from clients that were retained that we didn't have the year before.
And it's just because you didn't ask the question.
Because we asked the question.
Yeah.
So it really, really does make the difference. It really does make the difference. And your clients get value from it. It supports them. And you'll build stronger relationships because other people are not doing this. People are not having these conversations with their clients.
And it's interesting because sometimes clients won't even have thought about headcount. They'll have set their goals, but they won't have thought, actually, in order for us to realize this, we're going to need this number of people to deliver it. So again, it not only adds value, but it will help them to concrete what they need, and means then you can help to deliver it. So cool. So 4 hacks are: review what's worked, and do what we call like a business X-ray. Second one is get really clear on what's the figure and why, and then break it down using your stats, your figures, your ratios on what that activity looks like in terms of a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly basis. Then you want to focus on your client strategy, starting with your existing clients, looking at what could be banked, and then what's the opportunity for cross-selling before you even start doing new business. Just on that, you might also find certain niches that you could be focusing on with your clients that are much higher value, that you could be putting more effort into. And then your fourth thing is then mapping your people plan around it. Who do I need in my team to make sure I can deliver this absolutely excellently?
And I guess there is one more thing off the back of that, just probably to mention, Nikki, which is about the support, the machines around it. So logistics and infrastructure, because you off the back of that, you will want to review then, how do we actually make all of this run efficiently, and actually what support do we need? Because I think often people forget that, sometimes there are infrastructure logistics systems that we will need to generate that extra workload and to run really efficiently. So to just have that in the back of your mind as well.
Yeah, definitely. So those are the 4 hacks. If you want help to do that, then all you need to do is just flag underneath this, I'd like help, and we can jump on a call with you. And like one of the things that we offer is a thing called a profit accelerator session, which is a 60-minute fundamentally a coaching session, which really helps dig deep into where you need to focus your time or the things you need to focus on to either double or triple your results. It's totally complimentary. It's a huge value add coaching session. So if you are either struggling because you haven't hit your target, or you've had a good year but are disappointed that you didn't achieve as much as you could have done, then we can totally help you to really smash that, like totally smash that out of the water. So just let us know in the comment box below that you'd like some help, and we will we'll set up a time to have a chat with you. Cool.
Perfect.
So
Great.
Thanks, guys, and we will see you next week on the podcast. And have a good week in between. Cheerio. Bye.
Bye.